helps mimic the natural gait pattern. It helps flex your hip, bend your knee, and dorsiflex your, what we call, get your toes up off the ground. All three of those components kind of at the same time, where not too many other devices have that kind of dynamic capability. Most of them address one joint in the lower extremity. The sling really addresses all three. And that's kind of what makes it unique.
This is Recovery After Stroke with Bill Gassiamis, helping you go from where you are to where you'd rather be.
Amy, thanks so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, and congratulations on the success of your podcast. I was very excited to talk to you as well, because what you're trying to do is very similar to what I'm trying to do every day as well. First and foremost, I'm a physical therapist. I'm a board certified orthopedic specialist here in the United States, in Oklahoma, right in the middle. Mm-hmm. I'm also one of the owners of a large practice here in Oklahoma. We've got 44 clinics across the state, and we're a part of an even bigger entity nationally called Confluent Health. So I'm a very proud and enthusiastic PT first and foremost. The LegSling, which is actually, so the LE stands for lower extremity. And I thought it was kind of fun too, because my last name is Lee. So it kind of had this double thing for me.
I thought it was French.
Yeah, I know. And I kind of liked that it sounded a little French, and I'm from Oklahoma. So it had kind of this European thing, cool thing going. But no, it's because it stands for lower extremity. Right. It came about because I think I'm a PT first, and so many PTs and OTs I think are really creative and have good ideas of ways to make things simple and functional for their clients. And this thing kind of came out of a personal story that I had with a family member that had undergone a hip surgery. And, I'm over here thinking, gosh, I wish there was something to make, walking after surgery a little easier or a little less painful. And I played around in the clinic with this thing and had an idea and decided I was going to make something of it. So.
Yeah, when I first saw the LegSling images, it looked like just a couple of stretchy things that you attached to a thing that was at the top of the hips, that you attached to a thing that was at the bottom of the leg. And I know I've made it sound, very non-complicated, but it truly is that way, isn't it? And I call them things, but you'll tell us exactly what it is.
Yeah. So, so a family member of mine had a hip arthroscopy and came home from the hospital and was told to be non-weight bearing for 6 weeks after that procedure. And for those that have had a procedure like that or one that's similar, that's a pretty hard task, for someone that's just had a pretty big thing go on. To hold your leg up for 6 weeks on crutches is pretty tough. And so I thought, well, I can make that easier. All I need is like a waist belt and a couple of bungee cord or a strap. Really, at the time I was thinking I'll just use a strap and I'll makeshift a sling for her so that she can have some support while she's standing with crutches. And then I started playing around with it in the clinic with some patients that I had at the time. And I thought, well, if I use bungee cord, I can get a 2-for-1 effect here. I can get the support while someone's just standing. I'll have this foot pad underneath their foot, and the bungee cords that are attached to the waist belt will just, support their legs so that they don't have to work so hard to hold their leg up.
Yeah.
And then I'll have this other effect of, as they're mobile and they're walking on crutches with non-weight bearing or even partial weight bearing hip precautions, they'll get a kind of slinging effect of the bungee cord. And it'll help move their leg forward for them so that they won't have to work so hard.
Yeah.
And that's really how that was kind of the idea that came in. I literally went home and drew it on a napkin using vectors, which is what we use in the PT world. And I was like, I think I could make this. and I think it could be a helpful thing. And I called a buddy of mine, Scott Goldberg. He's a product genius in Kentucky, and I said, "Hey, Scott, I need help making something because this is a thing that I think could help people." And like you said, it's a very non-complicated device that in my PT brain, I think could have a very broad function.
Broad application. When I saw it, it was that vector image that I saw, and it was exactly what I'd explained. Something attached to the hips that was attached to the leg, and there was two things that came down from the top, but
Yep.
immediately that was enough to go, okay, what is this? How can it help? And I remember coming out of surgery for brain surgery after my third bleed in the brain, and they removed the faulty blood vessel. But while they were going in there, they did a little bit of damage to the stuff around that blood vessel, and I couldn't walk. I couldn't feel my leg on the left side, so I had to go through a month of rehabilitation. And during that month, one of the big issues that I had was that my knee would hyperextend either backwards and really be painful, or collapse on me while I was moving forwards. And it
Yeah.
was really scary because I had a couple of things that I was concerned about. Once, obviously hurting myself if I fall over, but also hurting my head, which
Yeah.
was freshly screwed back together and stitched up.
Very fragile.
The nurses and the PTs that were helping me get on my feet, needed to be one on each side. So I imagine any tool that they had to help control the movement of the knee would have been really beneficial to them and me. So I thought, wow, what an amazing thing that would have been. It would have been so simple to attach and put on, and I think it would have helped create, as well as the physical difference, that psychological difference as well, where you feel, okay, well, we've got a tool here, we're slightly supported. Now, for people that are not watching on YouTube, jump on to the YouTube channel, which I'll have the links to, and also we'll have the links to your website, and check out what the image looks like, and then also check out what the product looks like and how it's attached to the body. Because if you're just hearing this and you haven't seen it yet, you may struggle a little bit to understand what we're talking about, but we'll continue anyhow. So you developed this for a family member. Now, how, other than being a sling and sort of fulfilling the first part of your requirement for them, how else did it help them later? Like, how did you find that it was more useful?
Well, yeah. So what's funny is, I built it for this one kind of population of people, kind of for the post-operative world. And then, 2 years, 3 years later, after, we've built the product, we've packaged it, it's ready to go. We put them in a bunch of our clinics here in Oklahoma and some of those in surrounding states, and sold some online and sold some through social media. And all of a sudden, I start getting all these videos and feedback and testimonials of people that are using them for so many different diagnoses, stroke being one of them, quite a few neurological conditions, some that very closely resemble stroke effects, where you have one side of your body that's very weak and you need help ambulating. So what was such a surprise to me was that I was like, man, I'm not so sure that I even knew how broad this thing may be able to work for people. And every day that I get a testimonial, I'm so pleased to see, how many people are using them. We've got little kids using them, from people that have, terrible cases of shingles and bad hemiplegia and so forth. That they're able to, because it's bungee and because it's a waist belt, it works in a way that really sets it apart from any other device out there, because it helps mimic the natural gait pattern. It helps flex your hip, bend your knee, and dorsiflex your, what we call, get your toes up off the ground. All three of those components kind of at the same time, where not too many other devices have that kind of dynamic capability. Most of them address one one joint in the lower extremity. The sling really addresses all three. And that's kind of what makes it unique. So it's been very interesting to see, people like yourselves that I think that this will be able to have an impact for.
Yeah, well, automatically I thought that could have been useful for me, and I know a lot of other stroke people have been through, a similar thing where they've had to learn how to use one side of their body again or bring it back online, etc. So it sounds like you're saying that it's adjustable and the pack can be used for any body shape or size. So is it kind of one size fits all, or is it different sizes? Is it adjustable? How does it work?
We do have 3 waist belt sizes. We've got a pediatric version, and then like a small medium that fits up to like a 30-inch waist, and then a larger size that fits up to a 40-inch waist. But the clips that clip on to the waist belt are completely adjustable. So, and it's really the same type of instrument that's used in climbing gear. So it's very strong, it's very sturdy, it's not going to slip. So those clips can be placed anywhere along the waist. And then the bungee cord that slides through those clips is also completely adjustable based on the user preference. So you can have as much pull on that cord as you want, and then you can adjust it down as you see fit, through your progress.
Yeah. And tell me, is it something? How is it worn? Is it worn on the clothes? Is it worn under the clothes? How do we pop it on our bodies?
Yeah, I think most people at this point have worn them on the outside of clothing. The foot pad itself is a flexible material that we had custom made for this. It can be put inside the shoe or on the outside of the shoe, depending on how much support's needed. For those that have neurological conditions that have some foot drop and those kinds of things, they typically like it inside the shoe. I think they feel it gives them a little more stability. I would be interested to see if, how it would go underneath the clothing. I haven't had too many that have done that thus far, but it doesn't. I don't know either. Some people might be doing that, and I wouldn't know. But the foot pad definitely can go on the inside or outside of the shoe.
So one of the concerns I would have with it, though, because I don't know enough about it yet, is that maybe if we were to put something on the shoe, underneath the shoe, would it adjust the gait at all? Because now we've increased the size of the sole of one shoe, but not of the other one. So is there a possibility that it could put people's hips out or anything like that?
Oh no, the thickness of the foot pad is very, very thin. So I don't think that, biomechanically it shouldn't alter anything more than, one shoe being a little worn down more than the other shoe. I'd have to look at the exact thickness of that foot pad, but it's I wouldn't say that it's a quarter inch.
Yeah, right. So it sounds like it's very minor, which is great, because then it does exactly that. It's kind of on the foot, it's out of the way, and it's not affecting another part of the person's gait, which we often see with calipers in stroke. So people will be given a caliper because they have foot drop or something else, and it's quite a harsh product, the caliper. I'm not sure if you've seen it, and what it does is it really forces the foot into a certain position, but then it's so clunky and chunky and wide, because it's made out of really tough, strong, metal and other materials, that sometimes it impacts the way people walk. And my understanding is, and I'm not sure if I'm being 100% accurate here because I didn't experience this, but my understanding is that sometimes when people are in the healing stage and learning to walk again with a caliper, it's very difficult to then remove the caliper, because then they have to learn how to walk again without it.
Yeah, and I'm not sure exactly what you mean by caliper. It may be what I'm thinking in my head. If you're talking about like an AFO, which is an ankle foot orthosis, is that's the thing that kind of holds your foot up so that you don't drag your foot when you walk?
Yeah, that's probably the proper term.
Yeah, yeah. My experience with those is, and they're still very useful in a lot of cases, especially kind of the severe foot drop. In the mild to moderate foot drop, I think that the sling has a place for those folks, because what I have found is that compliance with the AFO is not always real high because, like what you said, they're very uncomfortable to wear, and it actually does kind of cause a reaction at the knee that sometimes people, it doesn't feel very good or it makes you feel unstable. So I think that they're very useful in a lot of cases. But maybe it's because we haven't had another option,
Yeah.
before. So, I'm very excited that the University of Oklahoma Health Science Center has decided to take the lower extremity sling and do a study on it this spring.
Wow.
And we're going to use the movement lab that we have access to. And I'm very excited to join with them in this venture because this is really where the rubber meets the road. We'll be able to analyze people and really show, like, mathematically, scientifically, like, does it do what we think it's going to do? So I can't wait to see what some of those early results come back as.
Well, that's why I got really excited to talk to you, because there's not only this amazing idea and then this product that you just, whipped up, so to speak, at the beginning, but now there's the scientific evidence. That's what we really want. We really want to have a proper tool that has been tested and actually shown to be beneficial, not just stuff that, yeah, that'd be great, or we think it's great.
Yeah.
And if we can get, the backing of, people from, that type of environment or background, I mean, that would be amazing. I think that's exactly what we're lacking. We're lacking in that stroke community, and I'm sure in the rest of the space where, rehabilitation is required, we're lacking a lot of those additional tools that are simple, they're easy, and compliance, which is something I haven't considered for that other, method, what I call calipers, and something to make compliance really, really easy.
Yeah.
So can this LegSling be something that can be installed or worn by the person on their own, or is it something that they're going to need help with?
Oh, I think most people can put it on very easily by themselves. We've got a YouTube video that has the instructions for it. If you have a PT or OT that you work with, that could help put it on you as well, I think that's an extra benefit. And I would just personally love for every PT and OT that's out there to see this device, because I think that they'll not only find it useful as another tool for their patients, but it's something else that they can use in clinic to help people. So either or is the answer there. Just
Yeah.
depending on preference and maybe even severity of of a stroke. That's such a broad, post-stroke symptoms are so broad in nature. There's no two strokes that are the same, really.
Okay, great. Well, then that takes me to my next question, which was going to be, who is it for and who is it not for? So is it possible that it's not for everybody, I would imagine?
Yeah, I don't know that it's for everyone. I think what's been interesting over the past few months is my patients and our our early adopters of this device are helping me write that indications list. That indications list started as a fairly small list, and it's broadened quite a bit just in the past year. For the really severe, neurological conditions, for the really severe post-stroke symptoms, I think it might be an adjunct to some other things. Some people may still need a walker, and they may still need an AFO, and they may not be able to use this independently, and that's okay too. I think that what's nice about it is that it is adjustable, and it can kind of go along with someone through their recovery, so it can progress with them. Which sets it apart from some of the other more static devices, is that because it uses a varying level of resisted help, we can alter how much we affect someone's gait just by pulling the cords tighter through the hoops. So I don't know for sure the answer to that question yet. I'm learning every day, who does and does not benefit from from it.
Yeah.
So time will tell, and the users will tell me, and I think the studies that we participate in will tell me.
Yeah, great. Tell me, you've, I think from what we said earlier was that you've been at this now for about 3 years with this particular product. Is that right? How many iterations have there been and how has it changed?
Yeah, it took us about 2 years from probably the pencil sketch to getting it packaged and getting it ready for market. So I think we really took it to the market about this time last year, I think is about right. So it's been about a 3 year project. And like I said, it started out as kind of my, and it still is, it's my side thing that I do. But it's been an interesting venture so far, and I'm lucky to have a good support system and a good business partner and great PTs that I get to work with here in Oklahoma.
Yeah. So if I come across this product online and I wanted to buy it, do you recommend that I buy that on my own and install it on my own, or do you recommend that it's something that I integrate with my occupational therapy or get my PT involved? What's the best way to utilize it to bring it into my my daily need of rehab or occupational therapy?
Oh, that's such a biased. I have such a biased answer to that because I think everyone on the planet needs a good PT or OT to work with, just on and off throughout our lives. I think that we're kind of the mechanics of the human body. So we should always, be an option for whenever you have any type of musculoskeletal or neurological condition. So I think anytime you can bring your PT in as part of your recovery, you should, PT or OT. So I would probably, that's my PT hat. I
Yeah,
think that
that's okay.
I
That's
think I
okay.
think you can definitely buy it online, and we ship them right to people, and some people just zip it right on and they've got it. But probably my professional preference is that you always call your PT whenever you need help.
Yeah. Look, that's fair enough. I didn't expect you to say no. Don't worry about the PTs and all that kind of stuff. Of course, I get it. I understand that it's something that the PTs might not know about it. So I think they should know about it. Not only because they will help me, in my recovery, for example, if I was using one, and I'm nearly, I'm in my where am I? I'm in my third year of recovery after PT and occupational therapy. So I'm not at that space. I'm not a user of your product, so to speak. But it would have been great if I had it to go back to my PT because they're in such a need for additional tools and and ways to support that I could say, hey, look what I found online. I wonder if you guys think that I could use this, and maybe I could go through a process with them where we both learn how to install it and how we use it, and get them to give me their feedback on what it is that I purchased online. And because we can buy so much junk online, and I think the logical thing would be to get those people involved so that we can create that conversation, and hopefully they can then contact people like yourself from LegSling direct and go, okay, what are we looking at here? Is there
Yeah.
science backing this up? And then you can take them through the process of showing them that there is a lot of work being done to prove that this product is a legitimate tool and a legitimate aid for people that are learning how to walk
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, I always said that if I wanted to finish this project, it was a personal, ambition of mine that I was just not going to be a person that had an idea and didn't do anything with it. So I really wanted to see it start to finish. That was goal number one. And I always said, if I made this thing and it only helped one person, then I could stop. It would be fine. Because I would have kind of that, you know, thing knowing that I was able to help just one person. Well, and I've kind of adjusted that. So now I said, well, now I really want the research. That's my next. Like that's a big deal. I really want to know that it does what I think it can do, scientifically. And what happens after that, who knows?
Yeah, that'd be lovely. So was it easy to get the university involved and for them to offer, the facilities to test this? Was it easy to make that happen or not?
It really was because I am an alum of the University of Oklahoma. So I called one of my former professors and said, "Hey, I made this thing. Do you want to see it?" And she was like, "Yeah, I want to see it. Bring it up here." And she's brought in another professor that works in the biomechanical engineering
Wow.
department. And he says, "Hey, I agree. I think there is something here. Let's get started." And I thought, okay, so here we go. So I'm in a whole new world now of academia.
Wow. Yeah, that is an interesting world. I love the way they go about stuff. Are you in the recruiting drive? Has that happened yet? Like how early on in that process are you?
We are in the phase right now of we are looking for candidates to help provide us some information on how it's helping them. So this interview couldn't have been better timed. I actually sent a couple of messages today to Sling users that I know are doing well with it, and said, "Hey, do you want to, come be a part of this study and let us see, what's really happening here." So perfect timing.
Yeah, beautiful. So I really look forward to, hearing the results of those tests or of those studies. How long do you think it'll take to get to the end of that project?
Yeah, so we're applying for this first one, I think this coming spring, and that's about a 6 or 8 month ordeal. And then I believe the two professors are looking at a longer term study that could take a couple of years. So we're going to do some short term stuff, and then hopefully that will yield some long term work. So you know how that is. Research is not a overnight deal.
Yeah.
Um, or better or worse.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, 3 years is not that long. I mean, it could be a long time when you're in the thick of the recovery and trying to get back on your feet. I get that. But in the meantime, there's nothing to suggest that people can't try a leg sling themselves by, getting one and then just giving you feedback based on what they've experienced so that perhaps the study could be richer and full of, more experiences and more data. So, what would you say to people that already have the LegSling that, or are just buying it because of this interview, for example?
Oh, I mean, if you have any interest in being a part of our study, to message me directly, and I think you'll provide probably my contact information at the end of the interview. The more the merrier. We'd love to have some qualified candidates. Anybody that kind of gets into that stuff, uh, be happy to. We'll even send you one for free if you'll come be a part of our study.
Well, there you go. That's lovely. I was going to ask also, how sturdy are they? That was something I needed to ask a bit earlier. How sturdy are they? How long can we expect somebody to get, use out of one of those?
Yeah, in fact, I just submitted a report over to the university to highlight some of the attributes of the individual parts of the sling. And I think what I'll do is I'm going to place that on a section of our website to really highlight, each individual part, what it's made out of, its durability, how much tension comes through those bungee cords. Because after I kind of put it all together, I was so my business partner Scott, that was really his part. One of his parts of this project was to make this thing long lasting and durable, so that it wouldn't break, so that it wouldn't slip. We wanted it to be safe. We wanted it to be versatile, and functional through a lot of different body types and shapes, and those, over different terrains and those kinds of things. So after I put all that information together, which I'm happy to, I think I'll just make another link on the website. I was more and more impressed with the parts that he chose, and the all the little nuances that I probably at the time didn't know much about, but he did a good job, and I think built us a quality product. And we're very happy that our parts actually all are made here in the United States. So
Yeah, fantastic. So, if I buy one and something goes wrong with it, how do we interact with your organization or with LegSling to get that sorted? What do we have to do there?
Just message us directly. You can do it through the website or through, you can always send me an email directly, amy@legsling.com. You can ping us through Facebook or Instagram. We check them all religiously.
Yeah.
So any of those portals are just fine.
Yeah, awesome. And now one other thing, and the last thing with regards to the product is, what does it cost for somebody to buy?
Yeah, retail right now is online is $120.
So that's extremely affordable, very reasonable. I didn't know what it was worth, and I specifically didn't ask because I wanted to get the response from the price after I had that discussion with you. And I think it's very reasonable considering how expensive rehabilitation products and services can be. $120 is not that much, is it?
Yeah, no, we did a cost analysis, a market analysis of other devices on the market. There's really nothing out there like this one, but there are some others that, are used for different types of ambulation, either post-operatively or like the AFO, like you mentioned, and we feel like that ours is marked very competitively.
Yeah, excellent. So you're not looking for thousands and thousands of people, obviously, to get in touch with you for this study, because I imagine if you got thousands and thousands of people responding, you'd be swamped and you probably wouldn't be able to handle it. So at some point, I imagine that recruiting is going to be stopped or switched off or something like that. Like you'll get to a point where you've reached the amount of people that you require. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, really, for this first study, we need somewhere probably 5 to 10 people.
Right.
That can give us some quality information and some data. So we don't need thousands, but I would love for thousands of people to be using this device.
Yeah. Okay. So for those other people, since we're not going to get beyond the first 5 or 10 coming on board, how can is there an offer that we can make that we can have listeners of this podcast sort of go ahead and take advantage of?
Yeah, absolutely. Did you want the?
Yeah, could you read it out? What the is there a discount code or something? Could you let the people listening know what that is, and then they can go along and follow the links from the YouTube channel or from the podcast to find the page.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go to our website, which is www.legsling.com, and enter in the coupon code AUS30DU, we'll give you a $30 off credit and take the price of the unit from 120 down to 90.
Brilliant.
And that expires, I believe, at the end of that coupon code will expire at the end of March.
Wow, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you. I mean, it's my intention to try and help out and save people some bucks if I can. So I'm glad that you did that, just so that everyone who's listening knows you and I haven't got a deal. I'm not getting a cut of that. So I'm just grateful that you would do that for me and make it possible for people to check this out and take a leap of faith, but also, get a benefit for doing that.
Well, absolutely, and I'd like to help you, share your page. Like I said, as a PT, I really appreciate what you're trying to do. I think that, number one, congratulations on your own personal recovery.
Yeah, thanks.
But to be able to share information with people, share good and good quality information with people is really, really important. There's a lot of, fishy stuff floating around the internet, and people that have gone through some of this stuff don't always get really good quality information. So I really appreciate you doing your homework and reaching out and the things that you're trying to do to help others that are in similar situations as yours, is commendable. So,
yeah, thank you. I struggle a little bit with the whole sharing of information, and it was because of that reason. And it's taken a while for me to overcome the fear of putting out information that was, well, not the best perhaps, but it's not my intention to do that. It's my intention to put out good stuff. That's why I try and align myself with people who are doing research, who are doing studies, who know their stuff, who have been, in their industries for a long time and are trying to help. It makes me feel like less likely to share information that's not so good and give it more thought, so that I don't put people like yourself off and the Dr. Michael Merzeniks of the world off. I don't want to be seen to be sharing information that's taking advantage of people. I want to make sure that we're giving good advice, and I'm not skilled at those things. So I'm only skilled at talking to other people, perhaps, and maybe not the best at that yet. But I truly do need other people to come on board and do that, and that's what we're lucky about. I think we're living in one of the best times on the planet as far as sharing information is concerned. So I wanted to take advantage of the technology that other people have made available to me for free. Skype, the iPods, and iTunes, and all those kinds of things. So it's just brilliant that now, I could bring somebody like you in, and you could help fulfill part of my goal. So, Amy, I love how your journey into LegSling started. I love how you're a problem solver like me, and you thought, well, I'll just whip this up and I'll help my family member out, and we'll get him back on board and working. And that's the spirit that kind of got me really keen to talk to you about it. And then I love how it's evolved naturally into these other spaces that you had no idea about. And then I also love how you've gone, you know what? Now that I'm getting the feedback and other people are benefiting from this, let's see if it really does work, if it really does help them, whether we're doing something that is actually going to make a difference. And I feel like, instinctively, I feel like you are, but obviously my head would love to see the results of that study. So I'm glad that you're doing that. So well done.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the interview. I've enjoyed it.
So have I, talking to you. We'll post the interview directly to YouTube. A little while later, it'll go available to iTunes. So if you're listening to this on iTunes, it's already on YouTube. Go ahead and check out the video. In the video, I'll have some of the snippets from the images that we spoke about and from the website, and hopefully that'll make people understand better what it is that we're talking about. And then also, by all means, whoever's listening, get in touch with Amy and get in touch via the website or the socials, and we'll have all of those links as well. Thanks for listening, and thanks for being on the program. I really appreciate it, Amy.
Discover how to support your recovery after stroke. Go to recoveryafterstroke.com.